this time, we are asking the council to consider the resolution designating the city manager as the agent for the hazard mitigation grant program and the pre-disaster mitigation program, which is a grant for seismic retrofit of the high school gym in connection with the ECCL project. Likewise, we're asking the council and the successor agency to consider the amendment, first amendment to the ECCL funding agreement that's between the city and the successor agency. Again, the pre-disaster mitigation program is a $600,000 grant provided through FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, and the money would be specifically earmarked for seismic retrofit of the high school gym, which is part of the ECCL project. This resolution essentially designates the city manager as a representative agent of the city to apply for and sign all requisite documents in connection with that grant. And so we're recommending that the council approve the resolution doing those actions. The next matter is between the city and the successor agency. This is the first amendment to the ECCL funding agreement. Back in February 2013, the city and the successor agency approved a funding agreement authorizing the city to utilize successor agency bond proceeds for the ECCL project. The funding agreement was placed on the recognized obligation payment schedule of the successor agency for the ROPS 13-14A time period. And that agreement and the ROPS were approved by the Emeryville Oversight Board, but thereafter was denied by the Department of Finance. And the reason that the Department of Finance denied the agreement at that time was that the successor agency had not yet received its finding of completion. And the reason we had not received it is because $16 million of money that was identified as part of the due diligence review for the successor agency had not been turned over and paid to the county because those funds were subject to the lawsuit that was brought by the successor agency and the city against the state with respect to funding for the South Bayfront Pedestrian Bridge, Transit Center, and repayment of Sierra loans, which the city and the successor agency had found in favor of the city at the trial court that those agreements were in fact enforceable obligations. And so the city and successor agency and the Department of Finance entered into a stipulation where we placed those monies in escrow. In exchange, the finding of completion was issued to the successor agency, and also the state authorized the funding of the ECCL funding agreement, and that agreement was to be placed on the next available ROPS. Well, the actual agreement identified a different ROPS period. So what we're doing is just amending technical amendment to the agreement to make sure that the agreement language is coincides and is consistent with the language in the stipulation. The other amendment is that we also want to revise the provisions of the agreement to allow for the bond funds to be transferred from the successor agency to the city during this ROPS period, which ends June 30th. And in exchange, we would also add a condition relative to the city's ability to spend that money, which would be that the city could not spend it until the city and the district entered into the master joint occupancy agreement, and the city had also approved a construction agreement with an appropriate general contractor for the site. So this allows for the money to be transferred to the city before June 30th. Otherwise, if that's not provided, we will have to place that on the next ROPS and go through that whole process again with the Department of Finance. And the earliest we would have the monies available would be January 1, 2015. So staff is recommending that this amendment to the agreement between the city and the successor agency be authorized.
Okay.
Thank you.
We have public comment on this item.
Okay, I'm not an attorney, so I heard a lot of legal speak happening there, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on, but insofar that you're being asked here tonight to cough up money for the city's portion of the Center of Community Life, I have some comments I'd like to make. For one thing, from what I understand, we already have, or had until recently had, and I understand a 99-year lease with the school district so that we can use the pool and the gym and the athletic fields. And so we have that agreement already that they have to honor that agreement. But now we're dispensing with that and instead giving them $21 million for essentially the same uses of school property. So that's not wise. But mostly I'm concerned that we were told last autumn that before we give the district our $21 million, we were going to find out about the new operating budget and maintenance budget of the Center of Community Life. Now, at first, as everyone here knows, that this was very oversold to us as a money-saving mechanism because of consolidation of the two school properties into one. We were told that's going to be a large money-saving mechanism for operating and for maintenance. And then we came to find out last autumn the operating budget was going to be doubled and the maintenance budget tripled, and there were some gasps out of the council, and you told the district to come back with different numbers that were not like that. And instead what we did, they didn't do that. Instead, they just rolled those operating budgets and maintenance budgets into the last city budget that was talked about at the last council meeting. And so we never found out, we never got an accounting about the maintenance budget and the operating budget. There was never an accounting. Now we understand that they were now purchasing more city community services, so that's great. If we want to do that, that's wonderful, but we need to get an accounting. What happened to our savings? First we want to see the savings, and then we should then as a city decide to increase the services rather than just this hocus pocus, this sort of ledger domain, this sleight of hand. And I just think it's wrong. I don't think we should operate like that. And the last thing I wanted to say is the school district are bad partners to engage in an agreement with. Just look at how the citizens and the parents that have been dissenting voices on the wisdom of closing Annie Yates Elementary School and consolidating with the K-12 model at the Center of Community Life. Those citizens have been summarily sort of dismissed, and the dissenting voices have been sort of quashed by the school district, and I don't think they're good partners.
Okay. Any other public comment on that item? Okay. I'd like to hear from council.
I have a question. I just want staff to address the operating and maintenance budget question that was just raised. I know that this is something we are not considering tonight because we have put off the joint occupancy agreement, which covers the operations and maintenance budget. But in the interest of addressing public comment, could staff touch on that or at least
Sure.
explain a little bit?
In the staff report for the joint occupancy agreement, even though you're not taking action on that tonight, it is in your packet, and there are details on how we came up with some estimates for the annual O&M costs, and it was taking some of the initial numbers that we received from the district, and then we did our own analysis of it. That is on, you can find that detailed on pages 17 of 26 through, which?
I think it's 20.
Through 20
Thank
of
you.
26. And those costs have been included in your operating budget proposal coming up later.
Which we are voting on tonight. And
Right.
so in a sense, that's why I wanted you to address this now, is just that we are voting on our own two-year budget, and it incorporates the analysis that staff did on what the costs will be to operate and maintain this facility once it's online.
Yes.
Okay.
I know the time, the clock is ticking on using the FEMA money for the mass shelter. So is there a time frame by which it has to be spent? Otherwise it goes back to the feds?
That part I don't know. This
Or
is
just
not my-
encumbered?
Let me look at the,
And just while you're looking that up, just for the public to know, this is a $600,000 FEMA grant for furbishing the gym to serve as a mass shelter in times of declared disasters.
the performance period currently runs from June 27th, 2013 to June 26, 2016. So you have until June 26th of 2016 to use the monies.
Okay.
Yeah, Mayor Asher, if I could suggest on that, all this resolution does is appoint the city manager as the agent. It really doesn't get involved in whether you're accepting the grant or pursuing the grant or anything like that. It just designates the city manager as the agent. And I'd like to go back to the successor agency item. The resolution of the city council approving and authorizing to enter into the First Amendment. I think this is a time issue, and Mr. Biddle brought forward that if we don't do this now, we're going to have a significant delay because we'll get back involved with the ROPS and the state. We want to avoid that at all costs. With that in mind, I would move approval of the successor agency action, that resolution.
I would second that.
Thanks, and I agree as well. I think this is one step towards the decisions that we will be making in August, August 6th. I'm glad, in a sense, that all of the information was put forward in our staff reports and in this packet, and the public has a chance to see it, although we are not considering some of the items tonight. But I agree with moving forward with the successor agency and city exchange of those funds. I do want to make just one other comment on this item, which is peripherally related, again, because we're not considering the joint occupancy agreement and the facilities lease and construction contract. But to comment on the operating and maintenance costs that the city manager just pointed out, I don't remember the exact numbers from before when it came to council, but I believe what's estimated here is approximately $200,000 per year for the operating and maintenance costs borne by the city. I believe it was somewhere closer to $400,000 per year, maybe when it came forth before, 300 and something. And so I'm relieved that our analysis shows that it's not as expensive as we first thought, which was kind of sticker shock for a lot of us. And the percentage there is 18% borne by the city and 82% borne by the school district. And to me, that seems like a good and fair distribution. So I'm pleased to see those improvements in our operating costs anyway. And then the second point I wanted to make is about one of my favorite topics, which is bike infrastructure and walkability in town. There is a bicycle pedestrian path that is designated in our general plan to go behind this project, and as part of the redevelopment of the site was to be incorporated. It has not been included in the plans that are moving forward, and it is to be accommodated in phase 2. And I will make some more comments about this as we get to our capital improvement program discussion tonight, because it is listed in our 5-year SIP plan as well. But I'm still concerned about the integration of this path into the project, and I just want to put forth the importance of that to me personally, and when we come back to considering these items in August, if the council hasn't made some other indication, I'm concerned about my ability to move forward on this project without incorporating that path. So and we'll talk about this more as we get to the SIP conversation this evening.
Well, I was going to just clarify that. We've had a lot of conversations about this path.
Yeah.
And it sounds like a little bit of blackmail on your part.
No, I'm not trying to blackmail.
Well, that sure sound like it, Jennifer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I hope to clarify my comments. If you want me to now, I can do it. Or in the SIP. Okay. It really has more to do with our capital improvement program discussion this evening, but I am encouraged by some of the information that staff has brought to me, and I have some questions actually for the school district, so maybe if you're not sticking around, this would be a good time to ask those questions. My first question is, when is phase 2 planned for the ECCL project? I don't know if you can answer that on your second day at work.
He hasn't even started officially.
Oh, I thought you started yesterday.
No, July 1st.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe our staff could answer the question about phase 2 and when it's planned to be completed.
I can't. I don't know.
Officially said no date.
That's, I would say the same.
Okay, so as I understand it, the bike ped path is to be incorporated into phase 2, and to me that's of concern because I think it's critical that we put this infrastructure in place when we have opportunity. As I mentioned, the path is fully accommodated in the current plans. The school district made sure in good faith that the path could be built and in fact rearranged things on the field to make that possible, and I'm appreciative of that. My next question is the real impediment the funding, as has been mentioned in the past, for the path, or is the school district going to resist putting the path in? Safety concerns were brought up previously, and I feel hesitant to put you on the spot, but I want to know if it's truly the money that is keeping the path from being built, or if there are other issues.
Well, I would say, and I won't speak for the school district,
Right.
and to put Dr. Rubio on the spot on his unofficial day here. Per the direction of the city council and the school board, we have been operating at the staff level that this is a phase 2 project. I do know that, there's been a lot of discussion here at the policy level of you all giving us direction on that. And I know both of those issues have been raised, the safety concerns and then also the cost. I will also share with you that we have looked at, actually this afternoon, kind of what the trade-offs would be in terms of putting that in, just purely without looking at other policy concerns, but just on the dollars, and then also just on the logistical side of things with the bike path. And I know that Maurice and Cindy met with Turner this afternoon, and I don't know, Maurice, if you want to talk a little bit about what that might mean if we were to go ahead and try to put the bike path in there. I do know that there are implications on the possible timing of opening up the pool, and then on the cost estimate, we had put a figure that came from Turner originally last summer of $725,000. That's a very fuzzy number at this point, so you can address.
I think you've hit the main point. In particular, the cost estimate is very rough. So we don't know if it's going to be more or less than that large number. And secondly, to put it in, we would want to have the design prepared and then built as part of the project. And to do so would impact the schedule of opening up the swimming pool, which we want open next summer. So if we decide we want to do that and fund it, it would delay the opening of the pool.
Yeah, and that's a real concern to me too, because I think how important that is to the community. So what I'm hearing is that to proceed with this path at some point, not only having the council feel confident about moving forward with that, but number one, having plans in place which have not been drawn up to put in the path. Number two, having the money to do so, and we don't know the actual cost right now. And number three, having the pool impacted and the pool use. And so so the bike ped path is right now listed in our CIP funds, although it's not funded. We don't have funds designated for it. And it's also listed in something else we're considering later this year, which is our transportation impact fees. as I understand it. And those transportation impact fees are to be collected from new development projects. And there's a huge list of projects that can be funded by or paid for by those funds. And of course, we don't know exactly when those funds come in. It depends on the schedules of those projects. But considering that we have things listed in our SIP plan that are also listed in our transportation impact fee plan, there may be the possibility of funds being available for some of those projects that are currently unfunded because of the nature of that. So my request is to ask council if you would consider prioritizing the bike ped path to be funded from city funds, whether it's transportation impact fees going forward or whether it's CIP funds, and work around the pool closure and schedule. Our pool is not open 12 months a year, as you know, and consider funding the bike ped path at some point before phase 2 of the project. I really do feel that phase 2 is something so far out in the future that it's not very meaningful right now. So I would love to ask the council for that kind of support and direct staff to prioritize that and see that we can make it happen before phase 2.
Jennifer, can we come back to this issue when we address the CIP on the
Sure.
Regular council agenda, just so that it's tied directly?
Yeah, that's fine.
To that
I just
item?
wanted to further explain my position.
Sure,
as,
sure.
Councilmember
Yeah,
Brickman.
I understand that, right.
Asher, those comments are not germane to this successor agency action, and I would request that we call the question on the motion on the resolution.
I have one quick comment. I just want to say that I'm going to be voting for this resolution this evening, and it's in no way to telegraph what my vote is about this project or this process in the future. Instead, what's very important to me right now is that the $20 million that is with the successor agency be moved over to the city coffers. However that's going to be spent, I think it should be with the city and no longer with the successor agency, and I don't think we should wait. And for me, that's what this vote is about right now. So with that, I'll call the question. Could you take roll call, please? Yeah.
Okay.
There's a motion and a second already.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's Davis and Brinkman.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Brinkman,
Yes.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember West,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Atkin,
Aye.
and Mayor Asher.
Aye. Okay. Right.
Mayor Asher, moving
Yes.
on to the city council action, I'd move the resolution of the city manager as agent for the hazard mitigation grant.
Second.
Anyone opposed? Okay with that?
It's 8.
That's 8.33, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And then we don't need to do 8.34 because we just did it with the successor agent. We have to do it
Separate
again?
For this
Yeah,
legal
for
entity.
both?
I understood the motion just to be on the successor agency resolution.
Okay, so we'll do it again. Okay. Do I have a motion on 8.34?
I
let's-
move 8.34.
Second?
Excuse me, I'm a little lost.
We're on the city council agenda, 8.3.4.
Right, but I thought you just passed 8.3.3.
We did?
We did,
Now we're on
yes.
8.3.4.
Okay.
Nora's moved the item.
And motion second?
Yes, Davis and Atkin.
Anyone opposed?
No.
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 Okay,